There it goes. I hit record before, but it didn't work. There it goes.
Welcome everyone to episode 6 of Barf City. I'm Eric.
I'm Billy
Billy.
Bob Thornton.
Bob Thornton. I say there's a ton of Billies that are famous.
Billy Loomis.
Did what?
I said Billy Loomis, but that's a fictional character.
Yeah. I mean, even fictional characters are famous sometimes.
Oh,
Yeah, that's so.
I love how every time I say a guy's name, you always laugh, but then when I say a girl's name, you always ask me why I chose that one. You're always like, why that one?
Well, I think it was the one before the last one. I completely misunderstood who you were talking about when you said Ron White. My brain went Jeremy. Completely different guy.
Yeah.
Known for two different opposite things. One's known for comedy and one's known for being in the most pornos. That one just threw me out because my brain wasn't even thinking about it. You only said 2 female names.
Yeah. In all honesty, half the time I don't even remember what names I say.
The last one I think it was Roseanne.
Yeah, I think that was the episode before the last one. I can't remember.
No, because the episode before the last one, I believe, was when you said Ron White.
No, that was the one before the last one.
Ah, now you're confusing me. Anywho,
I come from the land down under. That song's stuck in my head.
you just woke up and you already have a song stuck in your head.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's been many times I've literally I hadn't even quite I haven't even opened my eyes and I'm already sitting there like dancing to a song that just pops in my head. I'm like, geez, I'm not even awake and I'm already like dancing.
Yeah, I woke up out of bed because of an annoying song in my head.
Or I'll actually start humming sometimes when I first wake up. I'll be like, like humming to a song. I'm like, geez.
Like I'm there and sitting there having a good dream, and then for some reason this fucking song, people in my dreams are singing. So I woke up with the song stuck in my head.
I got a song. I got a song.
Good for you. Well, I guess I say Merry Christmas to any of the listeners.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it'll be after Christmas this episode out, but we're sitting here recording on Christmas Eve.
Yep. Christmas is not as good as New Year's Eve, but it's still a good holiday.
I actually could probably go ahead and say, how is New Year's Eve fun?
I love New Year's Eve.
It's
just
to me
that feeling it gives me. It's awesome.
Well, I guess it makes sense for you because you're very big on change, which we've discussed this numerous times. I think once or twice on the podcast, and millions of times at work.
Yep. Jeez, excuse me.
Podcast man, everyone's dying on the recording. Did you hear it?
Everybody's dying.
Said you're dying on recording.
Oh, I thought you meant like everybody's dying. I was like, oh, is there something going on that I don't know about?
Yeah. If you look out your window, you'll see that
we're just dropping dead in the streets. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be, I don't know, like as little as I like people and like going out and communicating with people and stuff, I don't know how I'd feel if I opened up my door to go to work one morning and just everyone and people were just dropping dead everywhere, cars crashing, and
yeah.
I think I'd just shut the door and go and stay the fuck inside.
It's like I don't know what's going on out there, but I don't want any part of that.
Because like I don't absolutely wish death on anyone.
Is that what you tell everybody? Well, officially, I don't wish death on people, but
I mean, there's some people that drop dead. No, there's only one person in my life that I have that thought process on.
I don't want to know.
It's not you, don't worry.
I was about to say it's probably me.
No, you're way low on that list.
But I'm on the list, huh?
Well, everyone's on a list somewhere.
I don't have a list.
Oh,
Yep.
you don't have a list of things you want to do, or people you want to meet, or more than meet.
Who would I want to meet?
I don't know. It'd be for you to figure out, not me.
No. I mean, there's some people that'd be cool, but like I'm not gonna go out of my way to make it happen.
Yeah, that's the only way to meet some people. Like, you have to go out of your way to go to Comic-Con or convention or whatever that they might be at.
That's just too much work.
It is a lot of work, but it is a lot of fun. Like, saving up the money and planning out the trip and all that's a pain in the ass. But once you get there, pay for it and you just have fun. I mean, it's a blast.
Yeah. So many people there, though.
We'll go to one of the smaller ones.
How many people are there?
I don't know.
Well, if it's more than two, then that's too many. Get it? It's too many. You don't even know what to say to that.
No. I kind of have to ignore your dad jokes.
That's not a dad joke. That's just an awesome joke right there.
Yeah, right.
I bet everybody that's listening is jealous and wish they thought of it.
I bet not.
Oh, by the way, we're officially on YouTube now.
Oh?
Yep, I finally got us on today, actually, early this morning.
Oh my God.
Yep. Well, obviously, just the audio, not our faces are on.
Yeah.
I finally figured out how YouTube's little podcast little section works because there's in the YouTube studio or whatever. It has the podcast section. It took me a while to kind of figure it out because I've never used it before, and I was just like, "Oh, okay." So I finally got it working. So it's all on there. They're out of order though because the thing automatically uploads them because it's based off your RSS feed, and I didn't actually physically upload them myself. It just did it through the the podcast, and so it uploaded them out of order. I was like, but luckily they're numbered so people can at least see them. And they'll be in order from thus forth as we continue to upload. So,
Well, they're not out of order if you look at it. So the way uploads do, like if I see it, the first one I see is episode 5. And it goes all the way back to episode 1.
Yeah. Well, it starts with episode 5, and then I think 3, 4, and 2 are all like swapped around. So
No, it's
on YouTube.
I'm looking at it right now. It's in order.
On YouTube?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, it was out of order for me when I looked at it.
Because you're half-ass backwards.
No, I looked. I know how to count, Eric.
We go what?
I watched Barney and Sesame Street. I know how it works. Actually, I never watched Sesame Street, but I did watch Barney. So.
Yeah, now I got a song stuck in my head.
What song is that?
1. What comes after 1? 2. What comes after 2? 3. What comes after 3? 5. I can only count to 4.
Literally, no one knows what you're talking about right now.
Oh, there's a lot of people that knows what I'm talking about. That video has millions of views.
Millions.
I think. I mean, let me do that. Because it's a stupid.
Well, if it's stupid, I don't want to know anything about it. You know, I don't like stupid stuff.
Yeah, numbers. I can only count to 4. It's a parody of Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. And they use Sesame Street based looking characters and sing to the beat of Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. And it's got 6.8 million views. It's 3 years old.
Huh.
Yeah.
That was like the year I was born.
Yeah. Your mental age, maybe.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
The Sesame Street did the Fiesta Sings 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mm-hmm.
So this person made a parody of it and combined it with the beat of Let the Bodies Hit the Floor to make fun of the way the Let the Bodies Hit the Floor goes and that. Yeah.
Ow, my toe.
What'd you do to your toe?
I just spread it out and it like started hurting.
Yeah.
That's what she said. That was a delayed one. But
Yeah, I don't think any woman's ever said that to you.
anyway, you don't know anything about my life.
I know a lot about your life. Well, primarily, like, once you were married, mostly.
When you didn't know me when I was married, or when I was married.
No, you. That's like your. If it's not a story dealing with like your mom or your previous religion, it's typically a story about
Biggest
something
religion. I only had one religion.
Your old religion. Okay, whatever. But yes, it's literally the stories you tell about your life is stuff with your mom and your sisters, with your Christianity life,
Excuse me.
or your life with your wife.
There's not too many other things to tell. That's pretty much my life.
Pretty much, yeah. You're pretty much easy to know about once you start hearing like maybe 20 stories.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's other things, but that's pretty much like 80% of it. So.
Grew up Christian with a mom and 2 sisters.
Yeah.
Got married young, split up, and now is a lonely security guard that can't get no date.
Now we split up years later. You're making it sound like we split up like the next day or something. we were together for, geez, how long was that? So we got married in 2010, and we officially was that 2010? Yeah, because I graduated in 2009, so, and I got married the year after. So, and we split up. I think that was 2016 when we split up. So yeah, about 6 years we were together.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is your life went from childhood to teen Christian years.
Yeah, I kind of got thrown. I kind of, because when I was a teenager, I still had like the mentality of a little kid, really. So, and I kind of got married right out of that, and so I kind of got thrown into an adult world. So I never really got to experience that young adult teenage, life. So.
So your life has 4 categories: child, teenage, Christian teenager, husband. Now whatever the fuck you are.
Yeah, single dad. Yeah, well, I mean, some of it is, I grew up in a church that really pushes innocence. So, and they really just don't want you That's kind of the way the church wants it, you know. I mean, it depends on what your denomination is, but they kind of want you to just like they like the idea of a teenager still thinking like an innocent child. So until they get married, so that's the way I thought because that's what was pushed on me. So,
Yeah, yeah, my
but
life is way more broken up in section than yours. That's for sure.
yeah,
Damn.
I don't know anything about your life because I never listened to you. Sorry, I just had to throw that in.
Well, honestly, I kind of understand considering I talk about the main points of my life over and over, like 3 of them.
Yeah. You've never really mentioned your childhood all that much. A little bit, but not much.
Yeah.
And when you tell me stories, you're usually talking about like your those adventures you always went on in your, I guess, your early 20s. I don't know how old you were, so you never really
I
mentioned
was
your age.
19.
You always just say years ago we went and did all this stuff and all that. And so I'm like, and that's usually what you talk about. So
Yeah, it was, so I was 18 for like 8 months before those adventures started.
where you were 18 for 11 months, technically.
No, I was still 18 when it started, but it was like 8 months after I turned 18 is when my adventures started.
Yeah.
That part of my life adventures, because like I grew up very free when I got in my teen years. Like between birth and I want to say like sixth grade, sixth, seventh grade, I didn't have a lot of freedom. I was very much, I had like one or two, maybe three singular friends that I could go stay the night with. And every once in a while, I went to someone's birthday party out of class. But I pretty much stayed school and home.
Yeah.
And then got into eighth grade. And basically, my mom was like, she opened the door and let me walk the fuck out.
In 8th grade?
Yeah, because in eighth
You left
grade, we were in a really small town, and I had
you left
that's when
your
I got
house in
promoted.
8th grade?
No, I still lived at home.
Oh, you mean just like leaving at any time? Oh yeah, that's different.
Basically, the only curfew I was given is because of the town curfew. Because the nation's curfew for underage kids.
Yeah.
So as soon as the lamp post came on, I had to go home.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah,
as I got older, that became less of a thing.
it was not like that for me. My mom was still trying to give me curfews when I was like 18, which I half listened to her and half didn't. So
I had a federal law curfew when I was 18. Well, 17
okay.
into 18. Because I had gotten in trouble. And I was on probation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I had a court ordered curfew besides nights that I went to work. Because my first official job, like, was McDonald's, which I wouldn't have gotten if it wasn't for the fact that I got in trouble and all that stuff.
McDonald.
Mm-hmm. But
Ew.
before that, I worked on a farm. I worked on a cattle farm off and on every summer.
Hmm.
Yeah. I was actually the only one of my friends in high school of my friend group that actually went and worked during the summer off and on to get some money.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I got a job fairly early when I was a teenager. I was still in high school when I got a job, so which not all teenagers do. Some do, some don't.
Yeah, I got in trouble like a month before I turned 17. and I was on a year probation.
Yeah.
So literally, the way they put it is like it was 2 months after I turned 18 is when the probation was over. So for 2 months at 18, I had a fucking curfew.
Jeez.
Yeah, I remember some of my buddies always making jokes about that. But yeah,
Make
in
sure you
ninth
get
grade,
home or you get in trouble.
yeah, in the first half of my ninth grade year, it was pretty much back to the whole school and home.
Yeah.
That's because we moved to the bigger town, but I had only lived across the street from the school. Basically, walked across the street, down a hill, and crossed the highway, and was at their school. And then we moved back to the small town the second half of that year, and is back to being able to run the streets. It's funny how we got in trouble in a small town.
Yeah. It can happen.
Well, again, I mean, that comes to the fact that only in a small town was I allowed to be that free. So what I'm saying is, oh, the town's too small. You're going to go get yourself hurt.
People don't really have that mentality anymore, but yeah, back in the day they did. So they just automatically believe small town, safe. So.
Well, literally, it took me 10 minutes to walk from one side of town to the other.
Yeah.
So it was like, and that's if I walked, of course, in a straight line. But, so people really didn't give a shit back then.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd say not. There were a couple of families that didn't allow that with their kids. And I told you about one of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be exceptions because some parents are just helicopter parents, you know. So.
Yeah.
My biggest problem with my mom is she's just, you know, so heavily religious that she just had this. It wasn't really about the staying out for me. She was just worried that I was going to do something to get my soul in trouble or whatever. One of those kind of things. Like, oh, he's going to start having sex and then, or doing drugs, and then he's going to be lost forever.
I mean,
it wasn't really a safety issue with her. So.
Well, the thing is, like, she's technically half right in some aspect because there are a lot of kids, and I'm included in that. Like, you can't be full helicopter parent because once your kid does get out in the world by themselves, there's a chance that they're just going to go fucking haywire.
Oh, man.
And that's when it's worse because they're already of age, so everything they do now is permanent when it comes to record and all that. But you can't be full, just open the doors and let them do what the fuck they want because then they end up like me.
Well, your life didn't turn out that bad. So.
Well,
I mean, me and you are like pretty much in the same situation for the most part, other than a few exceptions. So.
Well, my life only turned out.
I was sheltered.
I decided to date a woman that is just as stubborn as me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that can happen. So I've seen that happen with people even that were sheltered. I mean, look at my oldest sister. She did all kinds of stupid stuff in her life, and she was sheltered just like me. So she just went the opposite. She just reacted differently than I did to it. So
once you got the freedom.
Yeah, once she got older, she decided I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, and I just didn't think like that when I was a teenager / young adult. I just was like, oh yeah, obey your mother, obey your father kind of attitude about everything. So,
well, in your case, comparatively though, you went from one like closed area, like helicopter mom and stuff, to I'm married and I have responsibilities.
Right, and I did that for the most part because that's kind of what Christian, at least my denomination, that's what they want. They want you to. When you move out of your parents' house, they'd rather you just be getting married. They don't really like the idea of you moving off on your own like that because they're afraid you're just going to get yourself in trouble. So, and
right, like I guarantee it, if you had decided not to get married and went to college and made friends and partied for the first time and then decided you really enjoy freedom, you would have probably went off the rails.
Oh, I doubt it. that's just not in me to do that kind of stuff.
Well,
The problem is it was kind of the opposite way for me. I got married way too young and had kids way too young, and it's, you know, it's caused me to kind of look back on my younger days very bitterly. So, and it's, people wonder why Christians, when they tend to become older people, they become very bitter people, and it's probably because of stuff like that. They were kind of felt forced to do things they didn't really deep down want to do. At least not at that time period. I always wanted to have kids, but I really didn't plan on having kids that young. So, but the good thing about having kids young, I will say, is like when my kids grow up, I'll still be fairly young. I'll be like in my early 40s, which isn't too bad, and I can, so I'm like, that's the cool thing about having kids young. I will say that. So.
Whereas me, if I have kids now, I'm already 30, so.
Well, that's the age I intended to wait till. I was like, well, I figured probably early to mid 30s will be when I have kids, is what I was thinking. But yeah, that did not happen. My son is already almost a teenager, and I'm just now hit my early 30s. So
I'll just think for me, if I have a kid now, I'll be almost 50 by the time I graduate.
Yeah, there's some people that don't have kids till they're 50. Till like late 40s, early 50s, and then their kids they're literally already grandma, grandpa age by the time their kids are graduating high school. But hey, if that's something they want to do, there ain't nothing wrong with that. So.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not against having kids at whatever age you want. I'm just saying that didn't really translate for my life very well, because I was not mentally, emotionally, financially, or anything ready for these lifestyles. I was just doing it because I felt like that was what I was supposed to do. So,
well, you do it. We have to say within reasons. There is a too young time to have a kid.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I didn't mean it that way. I just meant like once you're an adult. So, and
I don't know, it's an old man, but you should be smart when you have at the point you have kids. You always be smart and make sure you're 100% ready for that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's actually a lot of people nowadays that aren't even having kids at all.
Yeah, it's more common now. They're either not having kids at all, or they actually are waiting longer to have kids. Like they want to have kids, but they want to wait, And there's so many people back in our generation and the generations before us would be like, oh yeah, I want to wait, but then they didn't wait. They would have kids earlier. But nowadays they're actually waiting if they want to have kids. So.
Yeah, because a lot of people in our the thing with our generation is we're split into two groups. Because our generation is in such a weird spot where there's part one and part two of millennials.
It's like that with any generation, but yeah.
Well, no, if you look at other generations, they literally just say one whole generation. They literally will say part one and part two of the millennials.
They say part one and part two of like Gen Z and Gen X as well.
I've never seen anybody do part one, part two of that.
Yep. Yeah, because there's the old Gen Xers. They're sometimes referred to as Zoomers with an X in front of it, and then there's older Gen Z that are also sometimes referred to as Zoomers, but with a Z in front of it, because they're representing like the older, because they have a slightly different influence than like younger Gen Zers do. So, and but yeah, it's the same way with millennials. We have the Zennials. Sometimes the older millennials are called because they have a lot of influence from Gen X, and so there's like the Zennials and then the younger ones, and I'm kind of right smack dab almost in the middle, where I'm like, I tend to agree more with younger millennials, but technically year wise I'm kind of almost right there in the middle. So
yeah, because I'm like 3-4 years before the end of the millennials.
Yeah.
So
it probably doesn't help that it took me so long to, do a lot of mental and emotional growing up. Because like you have to understand, when I was like a preteen and a young teenager, I still felt like an 8-9-year-old. Like I did not feel like I was a teenager mentally and emotionally. And so I hear sometimes I hear young Gen Zers talk about their childhood and they're like things they're nostalgic for, and I'm like, that's the same stuff I'm nostalgic for, and I'm not even in your generation.
Yeah, well, for me, it's like,
And I remember hardly jack squat about the 90s. Like, I hear people like at our age, they're always like, so, and people even younger than me, they're like talking about, oh, this stuff from the 90s. I'm like, I don't remember any of that. I'm like, how are you more nostalgic for something when you're younger than me? Like, sometimes it's several years younger. So
I think there's a lot of stuff from the 90s.
Yeah.
Because, like, in the 90s, a lot of stuff from the 80s was put on rerun.
Mm-hmm.
But the stuff in the 90s is also put on rerun in the early 2000s. So the later generation was old enough to start watching these old reruns of a show that was being re-aired from episode 1. And
Yeah.
so it became, but they knew it was from the 90s.
Right.
And it was, I mean, it was the way that shows kind of did the thing, like their most popular shows of each, they try to like air it across the eras as much as possible. Because heck, even in the 2000s, there were some 80s shows that were being reruns.
Yeah.
Because I remember, heck, I think I was in like 7th grade, 8th grade, and there were shows that was before I was even born, episode 1 on DirecTV.
Yeah.
And so, shows are very, nostalgia for shows kind of comes like,
yeah, most of the stuff, and especially when people talk about like pop culture stuff, like from the 90s, I'm like, I didn't follow pop culture at all in the 90s because I was a kid. You know, I didn't give a crap. I didn't really understand any of that stuff. So they talk about, some people younger than me, they'll talk about stuff like pop culture that happened in the 90s. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, for me, I had
you have to talk about like the mid 2000s. Then I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I had the advantage on that one of, my sister is 6 years older than I am.
Yeah. Well, so is my sister.
But my sister basically, because my mom, at a lot of points in her life, worked 2 jobs, so it's basically me and my sister.
Yeah. Well, my sister babysitted me all the time when I was a little kid, in the 90s.
But so I
don't remember her talking about that stuff. But she remembers it though. When we talk about it today, she'll talk about stuff from the 90s, pop culture stuff, and I'm like, if she did talk about it when I was a kid, it probably just all went over my head. So
yeah, I kind of like, if my sister started talking about something, I kind of just really listened.
Yeah. Well, I listen, but I have bad ADHD, so it's hard for me to pay attention, especially when I was a kid. So.
My ADHD causes me to hyper focus. It's kind of hard to judge eras of life.
So what's something from the 90s that you remember the most distinctly? Like, it could be pop culture, TV, or movie. It's something that really is very nostalgic for me from the 90s. Because like I said, I can't really think of much. So.
For me, it's more the moment of it that deals with this song was.
Yeah, when I think about the 90s, I mostly think about things that happened in my personal childhood, like hanging out with my cousins or hanging out with my family or being at school. Yeah. Like, that's the stuff I think about. I very rarely think of a movie or some pop culture or show.
I think movie. Oh. Yeah. Of course, I remember watching Land Before Time.
Yeah, I watched that. But my mind never really goes to that when I think of the 90s.
Oh, mine does. Like, one of the first movies I absolutely go to, if you talk about, what was your favorite movie in the 90s? Land Before Time. I was a little fucking kid in the 90s.
The weird thing is when I was a kid, I actually preferred a lot of the sequels more than the first one when I was a kid. Now I don't even remember anything about any of those movies, hardly. The only thing I remember is they were dinosaurs, and I remember the tree star part, that they were looking for the tree star or Great Valley or whatever. I don't remember all of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
watching the first like 4 movies, and I remember preferring the sequels, but I don't remember why. I was a dumb little kid. I mean, what do I know?
Well, some of the sequels are good, but now they're still doing shit, and it's weird.
As much as anything to make money.
Yeah, as much as I loved Land Before Time as a kid, they should have already killed it. Those
Yeah.
dinosaurs should have already went extinct.
They've already extinct. All that other stuff is not even part of the story. That's just made up story. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's see, what else do I remember? I mean, of course, I remember how popular Uncle Cracker was.
See, I didn't even know who that was until I was in the early 2000s. So until I was a preteen essentially. So
Because like I can remember 1999.
yeah.
Because that's when my mom was with this one Pacific guy. They only were together a year because he decided to end the relationship because he didn't want to start the next millennia with her. Constantly, like, there's even a video there. I actually don't even know where it's at anymore. I kind of want to find him. All of us, me and my cousins and my sister, dancing around the living room to swim through your veins like a fish in the sea.
Yeah.
So Uncle Cracker was definitely, and of course I remember NSYNC, Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
Constantly on loop in my sister's bedroom.
Yeah, I did know who NSYNC and Backstreet Boys was because of my oldest sister. She was like obsessed with both of those bands. So,
It goes. I remember my first crush on a pop star was Christina Aguilera.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I didn't even know who that was until the early 2000s. So.
I can remember
The first song I ever heard, like, I guess I'd heard Genie in a Bottle before, but I didn't know who sang it or where it was from. My cousin would always sing it all the time. The first video I saw with Christina Aguilera was What a Girl Wants, and that was in the early 2000s.
Yeah, my sister had the album for Genie in the Bottle. And it had Christina Aguilera on the picture. I remember even now thinking, like, she is very gorgeous. And I'm a little kid thinking this, and I never thought Britney Spears was hot, though.
Yeah, I was one of those kids that was a Britney Spears hater. Now that I'm older, I'm fine with her music, but I used to be like, I was like a straight up hater of her music. I was like, oh, Britney Spears, you suck. You know?
I never hated Britney Spears.
Oh, I did when I was a kid. And the same thing as in my preteen years. Yeah, I was a hater of her for no reason other than that's just what I wanted to do. So,
well, the big problem, right? It always has irritated me growing up, and one of these days I actually get the courage to ask my mom about this. Like my sister was listening to Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears, and all this pop stuff.
Excuse me.
And my mom wouldn't, unless my sister was playing it, would not allow me to listen to anything but country.
Your sister?
My mom.
Oh, your mom, yeah. Well, I mean, everybody likes different kinds of music, but
my mom would only wouldn't let me listen to anything else unless they were being played by my sister and my cousins, because they were all big in pop and stuff. But if I wanted to actually listen to it and my sister and them went around, my mom would say no because I was supposed to be a country boy.
That's kind of strange. Yeah, I did listen to Christian and country music a lot when I was a kid. As far as into pop I went was Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and that's only because of my sister. If it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't even known who they were. And
the funny thing is, like, I go to my aunt's house. She was very big into AC/DC, Metallica.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where I could start listening to that music. Like, I didn't listen to stuff like Linkin Park, Disturbed, 3 Days Grace, Shinedown, all those until I was in 5th grade, and I was introduced to that by Jay.
I didn't even know who 3 Days Grace was until I was in high school. I didn't know any of those bands until I was high school. Like I said, even in my early teenage years, all I listened to was when it came to like rock music or and stuff like that, it was Christian rock. I didn't listen to any secular rock music for the longest time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the funny thing is, right? You're 2 years older than me.
Yeah.
But anytime we talk about like our childhood or music taste or things that we remember and stuff, you make me feel older than you.
Yeah.
Every
well,
time.
you kind of act older than me, and it's probably just has to do with the way we were raised. But yeah. So.
Well, then, like, I mean, even as a little kid, I remember on summers that I stayed with my grandma, we would go across the street to the Flash Market for breakfast or something. And of course, all the old fuckers from the town were always there playing checkers. So I grew up listening to them talk and playing checkers with these old men. So yeah, I guess I got a very old soul.
Yeah, I mean, I was around a lot of old people as a kid, but when I would listen to their conversations, I never knew what the heck they were talking about. Like stuff, my mind would always I would misunderstand what they were saying because I didn't know anything about that stuff. So I would just be like, oh, I don't know what, because like, I grew up in an old, a really small church. When I say small, I mean, like as soon as you walk through the doors, you're in the sanctuary, kind of small church. And mostly older people were there. And, I'd sit around, you'd hear them talk for hours because after church was over, they had to spend an extra 3 hours just sitting in the pews talking. And
they call
so, and I never knew what anybody was talking about half the time.
I think that's specifically called, Jay and his girlfriend, they call it the Southern Goodbye.
The Southern Goodbye.
Yeah, you're already walking out, going to walk out the door, but you're at the door for another 30 minutes to an hour.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was my childhood in a nutshell, yeah. It's like my mom would be, and I would always get excited, and I don't know why, because you think by then I would learn. My mom would be heading out the door, or even in her car, and they would follow her to her car and still talk for like over an hour. And I'm like, for the love of God, can we go home?
I had no problems with, like,
well, I didn't mind her talking for a while, but it's like after it's been 3 hours, let's wrap this up. I mean, it's a school night, for goodness sake.
Yeah, well, I didn't have a problem with it until like I was a little older.
Yeah.
Because it's this one lady's house that my mom would talk to, an older lady, she would go over there. She had a Nintendo and stuff, and she had one of the older Spider-Man games.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a 2-player game. The second player got to play as Venom.
Yeah.
And so anytime my little cousin Logan would come with me, he played Spider-Man, I played Venom, but if I was by myself, of course, I played Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I'd get into all these games, and then it'd be time to go. Oh, okay. Well, sit out there in the car or whatever. She's talking for another 2-3 hours. I'm like, I could have played the games for longer. But I'm stuck sitting in the car.
Yeah, I will say, as I became a preteen, I did start bringing my Game Boy to church, and I was just playing it like after service while they were talking and stuff. I'd sit there and play it to kill time. But then eventually I started playing during service. I'm surprised they even let me do that, as strict as they were, but they did. They let me sit there and play, I guess because I was quiet. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, another one my mom would do is she would send me outside before, like, saying, we're going to go ahead and go out in the car. And I'd be outside waiting on her while she's still inside, sipping the last bits of her coffee, talking some more.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to be out here waiting on her, and she'd get mad if I wanted to walk back in.
The funny thing is now with my kids, I do that as an adult. One time I remember this is probably the best. I've done it many times, but the best example would probably be it was a couple of Christmases ago. It was at a Christmas party we had with my family and stuff, and it was getting like we had been there for hours and we had already played all the games and opened up all the presents stuff. All we were doing by this point, we were just talking. And in my mind, I had no intention on leaving anytime soon at that point. But every time I'd look over at my kids, I could tell they just constantly kept going, "Are we going home soon? Are we going home?" They kept asking me that over and over again. I was like, "Well, here in a little while, And it's like, but I remember thinking in my head, I was like, I had no intention on leaving anytime soon, and I got to see that other side of the coin. I was like, oh, now I get now I get where my mom was coming from, because I remember thinking that when I was a kid. I was like, how can you talk for so freaking long
But
to the same people over and over again?
I still have the mentality that like when I'm ready to leave, I'm ready to freaking leave.
I will say it does depend on the person. There's some people I can't just do that with anybody, but there's one guy I work with. I can't remember his name. Starts with an E, I think. And once after I talk for like 2 minutes, I gotta get out the door. I'm like, I'm going. I can't do this. So,
Yeah. Well, like the only reason I don't leave so quickly after work a lot of times
yeah,
when you come in is because like I can actually have a conversation with someone and not worry about a truck coming up.
yeah,
So I'm like getting the whole conversation out real quick. Cause yeah, I talk to truck drivers and stuff and contractors, but
you can
like,
only talk for so long. Yeah. So,
yeah. So for halftime, I'm just sitting there doing the job quiet, and so I gotta get it out somewhere at some point.
I mean, I guess when I was in high school, I would literally talk to my friends on the phone every night for hours and hours after I had just seen them at school that day. And so I guess I was the same way then. So.
Yeah, I wasn't like that when I was.
We'd all put each other on a party line. We'd all just sit there because we had our group, our thing at high school, and we'd all, when we got home, we'd get each other on a party line. We'd just sit there and talk for hours. So.
Yeah, I didn't talk to friends like that on the phone until like more recent years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm probably more the opposite. Now I barely ever talk to anybody on the phone except for my mom. Most people don't want to have long conversations on the phone like that. The people that I'm friends with, they're like, okay, anyway, I'm going to let you go. Yeah. You're talking too much. Sorry.
Well, like for me, like the thing is, like a lot of the people I talk to, I don't see them all the time.
Yeah.
So when we do talk on the phone, we get the call, I have a chance, we're all free to talk, whatever. I do want to spend extra time talking to them, see how they've been, and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But like, if I see you every day or like every few days or whatever for hours, I don't want to talk to you that long on the phone. I'm about to see you face to face probably tomorrow.
Again, it kind of just depends on the person for me. So some people I could do that with, even if I just saw them or know I'm about to see them. And then some people, yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. I don't have to talk to you on the phone right now or whatever. So.
Yeah, like for me and my friends growing up, of course, majority of I say friends really, but for me, I only had like true like maybe 5 friends going up in high school.
Yeah.
Because everyone else who I was friends with them, we would hang out at the cafeteria or on the playground or whatever. But when it comes to as soon as school's over, I don't talk to them, and they don't talk to me.
Yeah, I had a lot of friends like that too. Like I talked to them at school, but that was it at school. So
yeah, and then I have very few friends that. But when I the last school I was in, the town I was in, a really small town, so got to the point where the really close friends of mine would be like, we'd all be walking home together because we all lived on the exact same side of town.
Yeah.
And they would stop off at their house, go in, I'd continue on to mine, whatever, we'd all slowly split. And then we get home for a few hours, eat supper, and then we had to do homework. We do homework real super quick. For half the time, we done our shit in study hall. And then literally be meeting back up at one of the other's house for another few hours.
Yeah.
So there was no need to call each other and be on the phone for long.
Yeah, which I stayed at a lot of their houses a lot of the time too, but most of us didn't live that super close together. So when we stayed the night, we had to kind of plan it and have our parents, figure out who's going to whose house and stuff like that. But talking on the phone was easier because then all you got to do is just make a phone call. So.
Yeah, I only had 2 friends like that, Jay and my buddy Steven. Because Steven, which was interesting with Steven, is the weekends I was going to stay out with him.
Yeah.
I would actually be at school 3 hours longer than normal kids would be
Jeez.
because his parents were was janitors there.
Oh.
So they were finishing. They were working, getting the school cleaned after school, and we'd be in the basketball court, out in the playground, doing something stupid around, waiting for them to get done working.
Yeah, I had my external friends, and like I said, we usually just talked at school, and I had a
Yeah.
fair amount of them. But then I had my group of friends, and these were the people that, yeah, we all talked on the phone, like every day, even after school. We always spent the night at each other's houses. So, and we were the close friends. So these were the people I'd considered to be my closest friends in high school. Now, my senior year of high school, that did change because that's when I switched. The group split because I befriended, became unfriended rather, my best friend because of the events that I'm not going to go into. And when that happened, me and him were sort of the glue that kind of hold the whole group together. And so when we stopped being friends, that kind of split the group in half. And then it was just me and my friend John hanging out. And then my friend John started dating my sister at the time. And so when they started dating, we formed our new group with me, him, my sister, and then her friends. So my senior year of high school. So.
Yeah. It was funny. Like I remember getting my first flip phone in 9th grade.
Yeah, I didn't get a flip phone until I want to say my junior year of high school, the 11th grade.
So we would have
Yeah,
we would go at the same time because you're 2 years older.
yeah. My friend John, though, he had one early. He already had a phone in middle school. He was like one of the only people I knew in middle school that actually had a cell phone at that time. So
I didn't know Kia phone in middle school.
yeah, I can't remember what kind of cell phone it was, but yeah,
For emergencies.
yeah.
But when I actually got a phone that I could text and all that, all I wanted was 9th grade. And my friends, like I'd call their mom and be like, "Hey, I'm coming over," or whatever. Actually, get to the point where I didn't even announce myself anymore. I just walked in, "Hey, fuckers."
What's up, fuckers?
Literally got to the point where I would walk into their house and then vice versa. And for some reason, we always made a beeline towards the other's fridge.
Okay.
It was always walk into each other's house, and make a beeline for the fridge.
Yeah.
And with him, his bedroom was before the kitchen, so he knew I was coming. And watch me go towards the kitchen. But in my house, you come into the living room, the kitchen's straight ahead, but the bedrooms are off to the left.
Yeah.
And I was the back bedroom on the right. So he could come in, and next thing you know, I'm sitting there doing something, playing a game or whatever, and I look over, and he's just standing in my doorway, opening his soda. "Hey, what's up?"
So I never did that. I never could bring myself to go into my friends, no matter how many times. I mean, my friend John, like his mom was practically a second mom for me, and even at their house, I still couldn't bring myself to just go to their fridge. So
I did.
I couldn't do it. It just wasn't in me to do that. So
Well,
they could even flat out. My friend John, he even told me like anytime I got hungry or something, I'd mention it. Like, yeah, I'm kind of getting hungry, and he would like tell me, "Oh yeah, you're welcome to go in there and get something." I just couldn't do it. I was just like, "No, I can't go in there and raid your fridge."
Yeah, I was a little different on that. Like, after so long of them saying, "You don't have to ask, just do it," and I got tired of asking and hearing the same thing.
Yeah, which I did make a joke one time in high school because one time he went in there and was like, "Oh, go make you something," and I was just like, "Well, part of my thing was what if I eat something that they were planning on using for like dinner or something? I'd feel horrible if I did that." So I made a joke one time to my friend, the one that me and him broke up or whatever, and I made a joke one time to him. I was like, next time John tells me that, I'm gonna freaking go in there and just start grabbing hamburger meat, putting it in the pan, and start cooking it, fucking up, and be like, "Hey, you told me it was okay to just help myself." So, but I never did do it. I was just joking.
Yeah. Well, we kind of made it obvious on what was grabbable and what was not.
Yeah. Well, so it depends. Yeah, it depends on the person's house. I will say, at John's house, they practically had steak and fries for dinner every night. So I guess as long as you don't touch the steak or potatoes, I guess it's fair game. I don't know. Every time I went over there, that's all they ever had was steak and fries.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe he told him that's what you really liked because it was what he wanted. So every time he showed up,
It's like, oh yeah, Kevin's coming over. We got to make steak and fries because he loves that. Which, not that I minded eating steak and fries, but as a teenager or preteen or whatever, that was not really my favorite thing to eat. But I didn't mind it either. So as I become an adult now, steak is actually one of my favorite foods. But at the time, I was just like, yeah, it's all right. So,
did you ever somehow get, if you're still in contact with him or whatever, you need to ask him one of these days, like, so was the reason every time I was over there, y'all had steak and fries because you told him I liked it because it was your favorite meal?
I'll probably never remember to ask that, but yeah.
Well, I actually have friends that'll do that.
Yeah. Oh, it wouldn't surprise me if that was true. Yeah.
One of my buddies there's like, hey, I know you're coming over tonight. My mom rarely ever makes this, and it's my favorite thing. Just say it's your favorite because I told her it's your favorite, and that's the way she'll cook it. Okay. So literally, I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah.
But I had to, for my friend, I garfed it down and acted like it was my favorite thing ever. Sometimes you gotta take
it's so good. Yeah, so yummy. Yeah.
And actually, I had a friend that was a health nut. His parents weren't, but he was.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't have any friends that were health nuts. So. Honestly, out of all my friends, I was probably the biggest health nut, and I'm not a health nut, so that shows them, shows their mentality. So.
I even had one friend, David, who brought his own lunch to school.
Yeah,
he would act the lunch tray, and whoever got to him first that day he'd give his tray to.
Yeah.
So we would all race to say good morning, David, first to get his tray.
Well, if he brought his own lunch, why would he get a tray of food?
Because he'd give it to one of us, and he decided to make a game out of it. Of whoever wants for first gets it.
Yeah.
And we just played along because more food. But he would only eat. I'm not kidding you. He would make himself like triple decker, just butter and bread sandwiches.
Butter and bread sandwiches. I don't even butter on bread. Butter on bread sandwiches or butter bread sandwiches.
He would have butter sandwiches.
Oh, okay. Never heard of that.
And he would have one piece of bread, put butter on it, put a piece on top of it, lather that top of that one with butter, then put the other piece of bread on top.
I couldn't eat that.
You'd have two.
Too much bread for me.
Yeah,
I gotta have some substance. I gotta have some meat.
And I remember the first time I ever got into a fucking actual altercation with him was we were at my buddy Caleb's birthday, which Caleb's the one I went around the world with.
Excuse me.
Because David was so picky on how he ate things. Literally, like I said, he eats fucking butter sandwiches for fucking lunch every day, which is ugh. I couldn't eat butter and bread. But all he would eat was the cheese sticks. And
I don't like cheese sticks either.
We ordered pizza and all he wanted was cheese sticks.
Yeah.
And I got 4 cheese sticks out of the big old large cheese stick. And he went off on me. That's the only thing I will eat. You get to eat all the other stuff. Like, the only reason that's the only thing you can fucking eat is because that's all you want to fucking eat. Man,
Oh man.
Kim's literally over there just watching, eating his fucking pizza. Like, okay. But yeah, I've had some interesting friends.
Yeah, I mean, I've known people that are picky eaters. They only eat like, 4 different things, they refuse to branch out and eat anything else. So, and,
And I'm the asshole. Like, I'm at a party and I know someone is so fucking picky they'll eat like 2, 3 things at that
yeah.
party. I will go out of my way to eat those 2, 3 things.
Oh, I won't do that.
Well, it's like it bothers me when people are that like being that picky.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care. People can eat whatever they want, but yeah.
Like, I mean, you can, but half the time those people that I've ran into that are so picky they only eat so little things, they're assholes if anybody else eats it.
Yeah.
Especially when there's a buffet and other stuff.
Yeah, if I was at a party and I was just eating one of their things they just happened to like because maybe I liked it too and I wanted some and they complained about it, then I might turn into an asshole. But I wouldn't just purposely go out of my way to just eat it just because I knew that was one of the only things they wanted to eat. So.
Yeah, I guess I got ran into too many of them and I just have a bad taste in my mouth over them.
Yeah.
Like, well, if you weren't so fucking picky, you'd have plenty of options. Now, if it's something I absolutely, me, myself, I'm like, why would you eat that? I would never touch that with a fucking 6.5 foot pole. I'm not going to touch it. Have that all day long. I'm done.
Yeah, like help yourself. There you go. Most
But
of the time, yeah.
And it's one of the only things you'll eat. I don't care. If I like it, I want to eat it.
Most of the time I've noticed with picky eaters, the stuff that they only will eat is usually stuff that I don't even like. So it's usually not an issue for me. So,
well, me and my cousin Ray Ray used to get like he used to irritate the piss out of me because the only things that he would eat, like he's branched out now since he's been older. But as kids, him and his brother Joey, his half brother, because they would. So his Ray Ray's dad, my uncle, treated Joey just like he was still his kid, anyways.
yeah.
Joey's older. So when they came down for summer, it was always Ray Ray and Joey. And I loved hanging out with summer because they were fun to hang out with. They were the only members of my family, besides Logan, who's really young or way younger than me, that liked what I liked. And I didn't want to hang out with Logan all the time, which I was constantly forced to because he was the youngest. And the other two males they were like 3 years older than me.
Yeah.
So I lumped in with a really young one. And it used to annoy the piss out of me. But they were so picky. They would eat like only certain pizzas. They'd eat like certain lunch meat, this and that. And my uncle, even though they lived with us, we got to fill the fridge, the deep freezer with their food. And there would be nothing for me to eat because maybe mom hadn't gone grocery shop or something yet. So I'd go in there and grab one of those things because I eat those. They were stuff that I liked too. And it'd be big old boxes of it.
Yeah.
And they used to whine about it, and my uncle would jump down my fucking throat over it.
Jeez.
Yeah, so I have a sustain for picky eaters.
Yeah, when it comes to picky eaters, I always feel like the things they like are like chicken nuggets, cheese sticks, mac and cheese, or and those kinds of things. And I'm not a big fan of any of that stuff. So I'm like, if that's what you want to eat, then more power to you.
Yeah, I love all that, but mac and cheese.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I'll eat chicken nuggets, but if there's better options at where I'm at, like, yeah, I'm not gonna eat chicken nuggets. I'm gonna eat the better option.
Yeah.
Chicken nuggets are only good if you dip it in a good dipping sauce. Like by themselves, they taste terrible in my opinion. So.
Yeah. My wife just got home. What'd you bring me?
Chicken nugget.
Ooh, there's butterscotch. That's the old person to me. I love butterscotch.
It's okay. Yeah.
Butterscotch and what is it? Vidal?
So now that I ask you about the 90s, what's something that really jumps out to you about the early or mid 2000s, whatever, that's very nostalgic for you?
A lot of Black Eyed Peas.
Black Eyed Peas, yeah.
Oh, you mentioned 2000. That's my first thing my brain thinks is Black Eyed Peas. Like,
Yeah.
no, 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 don't funk with my
Black Eyed
heart.
Peas was really friggin' popular in the early mid 2000s. They were probably actually one of the first bands that kind of pulled me into more like non-Christian music. Because, like I said before that, all I listened to, like even when it came to rock or whatever, it was all Christian. And the Black Eyed Peas was one of the first ones that kind of pulled me away from that into more non-Christian music. Well, them and not 3 Days Grace. They came a little later. Green Day was another big one that pulled me away from Christian, listening to more non-Christian music.
Yeah, I know, like, so can't remember what dance it was. It's like, I think it was homecoming dance.
Yeah.
In my 10th grade year. So you would have been a senior.
Yeah.
I went with the girl I was dating at the time, Liz, and we were sitting there, starting to have a good day, but some shit happened, blah, blah, and we got into a massive fucking fight. Like, I almost took the fucking stall doors off the bathroom.
Jeez, what the heck were you fighting about?
Yeah. I'm not going to put that on the podcast.
Oh, okay. You fighting over some girl or something?
Huh?
Fighting over some girl or something?
Well, was
that was just the first thing that jumped in my head. So.
In a way. Liz was bisexual.
Bisexual?
Yeah.
What, you were fighting over a guy and a girl?
No, so it's a hard one. When me and Elizabeth, while we were dating, there was a bunch of me and her ended up splitting up and getting back together 7 times.
Jeez.
In 2 years. And she's the reason I don't give a girl any more than 3 chances. Sometimes even only 1.
3 chances to do what?
Fuck up.
Well, what would be considered a fuck up for you?
Pretty simple.
That's a pretty broad statement, so I would need an example.
It's pretty simple for me. Don't cheat is the only one.
Okay. Oh, okay. So if she cheats on you 3 times, then bye-bye.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't take cheaters.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I dated a girl for 5 months who.
Hey, at least you give them 3 chances. But some people only give people once. So they're like,
it depends on the severity of the cheating.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm also a big adamant on, if you tell me that you fucked up, I go easier on you.
Yeah.
If I find out through other means, and that you've been like, if you fuck this, if the girl I was with, she fucks the dude and regrets it and tells me, I'll be pissed, but I'm not going to dump her over it.
Yeah.
But
that's understandable.
If I go, if like someone catches her cheating and I confront her about it, that's what they tell me, and it turns out she's been fucking the guy for 4 or 5 months.
Excuse me.
That's your 1 chance. That's all 3 chances, that 1.
Right, because she was like keeping it a secret from you for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. But we got into it, and she ended up leaving the homecoming, and I was going to leave, and my buddy Nathan convinced me to stay and try to actually have some more fun. and we got then. I just like fucking, now technically going stag because Elizabeth ran off and left after we split up. But he started talking to these two girls, and we all left the homecoming and in my Cavalier. And at this point, I'm actually having a great night now.
Yeah.
I'm single now. I'm actually having fun with my best friend and this and that, and there's no one to piss me off. And I remember driving around town in the Cavalier, but as soon as we hopped in, I started up the Cavalier, and the first fucking song that plays is I Got a Feeling.
You told me this story before. I forgot about that.
Yeah. I'm like, what? So yeah, Black Eyed Peas for me is very early 2000s to mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Like every time I turned on the radio, there was some Black Eyed Peas song.
Yeah. Yeah, they, like I said, they were really popular. It was hard to turn on the radio without hearing one of their songs back then in those days.
Mm-hmm. I remember, I don't know if you remember, a lot of people actually don't, when VH1 had their, during the summer, they did nothing but play music videos.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, there's like one or two summers that I can remember that all that was on VH1 was nothing but music videos through the whole summer. They had the commercials, but they had no shows on, nothing. It was just straight music videos. Jay would actually record every day on a VHS tape. Record a bunch of music videos.
Yeah, I used to do that.
And I remember we'd hang out and we'd pop in the music
Because then you can just listen to them back to back without commercials. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, let's see here. Another thing in the 2000s for me was video games and World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Or, what's that game called? RuneScape.
Oh, yeah.
That was definitely a 2000s game.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff in the 2000s.
Yeah. That's definitely my mind. I guess it'd depend on the category for me. If someone were like, said the words music in early 2000 or in the 2000s, usually the first band that pops in my head is 3 Days Grace, because I was just so obsessed with that band. I practically worshipped them when I was a teenager. And but if someone were to say like 2000s and TV shows, I don't know. I didn't really have that one show I watched a lot. Probably my most watched show during that time was actually probably Seinfeld, because I used to watch it every night before I went to sleep because it came on TBS. And I would watch, and that's when I first started watching the show, because before that I had never watched it. And,
it depends on what part of the 2000s for me when it comes to shows.
I didn't just sit around watching television really in the 2000s a whole lot. That was when I was switching over more to my internet usage and started getting on video game forums and stuff like that. I spent a lot of time doing stuff like that.
Well, let's see here. The first part of 2000s, like I spent a lot of time watching. That's when I got really big into anime.
Yeah.
And Toonami was doing the complete and total reruns of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, excuse me.
And of course, Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
Zoids.
Jeez.
And then, of course, the Gundam series.
Yeah.
And then, of course, on Saturday mornings, it was JetX or Kids WB.
Yeah.
And then later in the 2000s, like I watched Naruto and stuff, but I mainly really stopped watching a lot of TV.
Yeah, I guess it is fair to say that I should probably split the 2000s into the early / later 2000s, because it is a little bit different experience for me. So I guess if someone were to say early 2000s for a TV show, I would probably just say DBZ, because that was probably my most watched show at that time. So,
Yeah, DBZ.
but by the time I
Pokemon,
became an older
Dory.
teenager, I didn't really watch any of that stuff anymore. I didn't even watch like Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon much anymore, hardly at all. I mostly watched, like I said, I watched a lot of Seinfeld, and I remember watching a lot of infomercials late at night, at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, because I found them entertaining. So.
Yeah, the later 2000s for me became like if I watched a cartoon or a show or anything, was because there was one of those days I just didn't feel like hanging out with a buddy or something, and I just wasn't in the mood for a game. I'd watch a couple shows I really liked when they were on.
I guess except for maybe SpongeBob, I did watch a lot of SpongeBob in the late 2000s. That's when I first became a SpongeBob fan. Was in the late 2000s.
Yeah.
Because before that, I didn't really care for it. So.
Around 2011, 2012, there was like a 3-4 month period where I actually reverted to how I was in the early 2000s. Like, I didn't want to go out and party with people. I didn't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I just didn't watch shows. I would play video games every once in a while. I'd be on my computer, but there would always be a movie or show going on.
Yeah.
There's a couple month span where I reverted. And now I'm technically somewhat reverted now, but
But it's pretty common in adult age. Yeah. Once adults hit a certain age, they do tend to go out less commonly. So.
Well, for me,
but it's not like that for every adult, of course.
Pre-COVID, I went out a lot. And then COVID happened, and I was just doing work, home, trying not to risk catching anything.
Right.
Even if it was just the common code, I didn't want to catch it because then everyone was going to go ballistic at the guard shack, especially
because everybody was extremely paranoid during that time. Yeah, you can't even cough around people without them being going, "Oh God, get the hell away from me!" Yeah.
I was literally smoking a cigarette, and I coughed, and with a cigarette in my hand.
Yeah.
And so I threw down. I'm like, "Dude, I'm a fucking smoker, dude."
Yeah, like I'm gonna cough a little bit when I smoke. Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, and you can't say you couldn't say that you didn't feel good either around that time. If you ever mentioned like, "Yeah, I don't feel very good today." Oh God, what do you got? You know.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So anytime I didn't feel good, I never would mention it to anybody because I didn't want them to freak out on me. I'm like, I don't have freaking COVID. I just don't. My stomach hurts or whatever.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were like, "Yeah, I just wasn't." Told they were telling me that they told their boss they weren't feeling good, and they told them not to come back until they get a COVID test.
Yeah.
But so during COVID, and then of course these couple years pre-COVID, these few years. Now I'm trying to get more active again.
Yeah.
But I really reverted to just watching movies and shows, and
yeah, you've gotten so used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to become more active myself. My main problem is my schedule. I just don't have a lot of free time during the weekdays. I have more free time on the weekends, but that's usually when I hang out with my kids. And so it's really hard for me to make plans to go out and do stuff that I want to do. So,
yeah, for me, the only problem I have is my wife typically works on the weekends.
Yeah.
So when we do get the occasional one day off together on the weekend, we tend to spend it together in the house.
Right.
Because, she's about to start, she works the next day and she's not wanting to do a lot that day. And I just worked the day before and I'm tired still. We really need those 2 days. So, we do shit on Saturday and then we know we have Sunday to completely rest. But it is what it is, I guess. It's life.
Yeah. It is that way. Um, I
Yeah.
I kind of felt like when me and my wife were together, she went out a little bit too often for my liking. She was like, "Oh, let's go somewhere." I'm like, ugh. So she's always wanting to go somewhere. So I mean, I don't know how she is now, but back in those days, she had entirely too much energy. She'd work a full 10-hour shift and come home and just want to go out and do a bunch of stuff. And that was like usually the last thing I wanted to do. So I was like, can't we just relax and hang out?
Well, like, I would probably get more that way if I like could get myself reused to it. Like even
Yeah.
just starting weekends going out and doing stuff. But like when you only have one day to relax with your significant other before they
Right.
go to, and then you're stuck by yourself all day, almost all day by yourself that day, and then instantly go to work. You kind of don't want to spend that one day around a shit ton of people.
Yeah. Yeah, which is understandable.
But,
Yeah, I'm working on it. It'll probably get a little better when I get a car. It'll free up some more time for me, make things easier on me.
you'll be taking an
And
attitude.
I'll start trying to make some more plans to maybe go hang out and do some things that I want to do. So
Yeah.
till then, I'm just kind of stuck in my situation. I think I've just finally admitted that to myself. I'm like, I think I'm just stuck like this until I get my car. But luckily, it won't be that long before I get one. So
Yeah. Well, I guarantee you, like, if this podcast kicks off, and
Sorry,
which
just bump the microphone.
like I've decided, like, even if this podcast kicks off to the point where, like, maybe it's not enough for me to quit work, quit the full time job and just do this full time, but it's really supplementing big time.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna have my wife not work if she doesn't want to.
yeah,
Like, I got the podcast. I'll just do my job in the podcast. That way, we frees up us to do shit.
right. It is hard when you and your spouse have two different, you both work and you got other things you're doing. It's hard to plan around a lot of those things. I remember when I was still married, it's like not only did she work, but she was going to school too. So we were trying to plan around classes and work schedules, and it is a nightmare sometimes. So
Mm-hmm.
it definitely makes it easier when you could just free up at least one of the people's schedule. So
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, if this goes off to the point where, it's making way more money than I'm making it's an hour job, I'm going to free myself up and do this full time and have all the time in my world to myself. And she can have more access to do what she wants.
yeah.
And so,
So I was thinking for our next episode is technically going to be our last episode of the year.
yeah, because, it'll come out, it'll be our first, technically the last recording of the year,
Yeah,
but first episode of the next year.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Since we will be recording it most likely on New Year's Eve,
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about uploading it on New Year's Eve. So
Okay.
and make it instead of waiting until Thursday. I was thinking about doing it like a special little New Year's Eve episode.
Okay.
And so thought that might be kind of to send off, like it'll literally be on the last day of the year. And then we'll kind of
We're going to do that. We want to get up a little bit earlier, my friend.
yeah, well, I'll work on that, but I'll work on that.
You have only
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sleep in that long. Okay, Sunday is it's a weird schedule day for me because Saturday I'm usually go to bed like at a weird time that I'm not used to, and I'm usually okay on Saturday, but because of my messed up schedule sometimes on Saturday, it really throws me off on Sunday. And then plus on Sunday I'm always sitting there thinking about like like about the fact that I got to go into work tomorrow. So I'm sitting there thinking, well, I probably don't want to sleep in too long, or maybe it would be better if I just slept longer. It's all over the place. So
I mean, at least the difference between us two on this is like, I gotta go in straight in the freaking morning. You get to at least like stay up late tonight.
yeah, well, yeah. If I had your schedule though, my weekend schedule wouldn't be quite as jacked up though, because back when I used to work the same shift with you, my weekend schedule was actually pretty easy to deal with. I just kept the times close to the same. I woke up just about, a little later because it was the weekend, but pretty close to the same time. And I went to bed roughly about the same time, just a little bit later. So,
Yeah.
but now it's like on the weekends, it's all over the place. So,
I start getting tired around 8 o'clock now.
yeah. The older I get, the more I actually prefer to work in the morning. I would actually rather get up early and work in the morning. I miss that schedule so much. The thing I don't miss is the chaos. But but I do really, really miss that schedule. So,
it's a nice schedule, but like, if I could go back to overnights, I would.
not me. I hate my schedule now, but I would rather keep my schedule than go back to working the weekends again. I don't want to go back to that. So, but if I am being honest, I really don't like my schedule at all. So, after working your schedule, I don't like my schedule. So, I actually absolutely hate it. So, but it's better than again working weekends. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll just stay where I'm at.
Yeah.
But can't always choose your schedule.
To be able to go back Monday through Friday, midnight to 8. Because like I felt like I had a lot more time then. It's like I'd come home.
Yeah. Now, if I was younger and like, especially in my early 20s, but even like mid 20s, I would probably love this schedule a lot more because when I was younger, I preferred staying up later. But as I've gotten older, like I said, it just makes me tired all the time to stay up that late. I prefer, like I said, I just would rather, I'm more prime in the morning now. I would just rather do my stuff in the morning to the early afternoon, and then after it hits 4 or 5 o'clock, my brain's shutting down. I don't want to do anything else.
Yeah, well, for me, it's weird because like when I was a kid, I got up early all the time. Like,
I was like that when I was a little kid. I was an early riser for sure.
And like even in my teen years, like on the weekends, I might sleep in a little bit, but I still had no problem. Even during the summer, I would still not really sleep in that whole lot. Yeah. And then my adult years, my young adult years, I had gotten to I started working overnight, some jobs, and most of my jobs have been late night shifts.
Yeah.
So now coming to this at this point in my shifts being mornings, which is a weird thing to me because like I've never had a morning shift until now.
Yeah, I've technically had 2. So, and in both situations, I didn't like either one of them when I was in my 20s. I didn't like morning shifts in my 20s, but I like them now. So,
well, yeah, for me though, it's like I'm so used to evenings and overnights that mornings I still haven't got used to it.
Yeah. I don't know what happened with me. It's my brain just did a flip flop. So
I was always thinking like, I got up at 4. I have like 5 hours to go do shit.
Yeah.
I get off at 4, come home, and I'm just like, I'm ready to go sleep already.
It is fair to say, kind of going back to the post-COVID thing, that especially here in Arkansas, there's so much crap there that, like working the late night shifts. It's like when you get off work, it's like nothing's open. There's like hardly anything to do now ever since COVID hit, even after COVID. And it's like before that, it used to not be that bad. There was more stuff to do. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. Arkansas is not exactly the most happening state in the world, but there was still more stuff to do.
So, like I remember, like it irritates me that Walmart closes at a certain time now.
Oh yeah, yeah, and they have no intention on ever going back to those 24 hours either, from my understanding.
Yeah, it really irritates me because, like, I got like me and my buddy Chris. Even if we're just driving around town, we'd go to because one of our McDonald's was 24-hour McDonald's.
Yeah.
We go there, eat and stuff, whatever. We drive around town, be stupid. And just because we were bored, we went and hung out at fucking Walmart all night.
Yeah. And
would talk to those overnight people.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember me and my friend John hanging out at Walmart all the time late at night. And like you said, sometimes we'd go to Taco Bell or, and we'd go to other places and stuff. And it was more fun then. And Hastings, back when it was still open, it would stay open decently late too. And so we could go in there pretty late at night sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's like, nope, all that's pretty much, it's like it hits 9 o'clock, here, and it's like, shut the shit down. The night is over. And I'm just like, well, geez.
I still got like 3 more hours before I get off work. What the fuck?
Yeah. It's like, so when I get off work, it's literally, pretty much the only two places that are open are gas stations, Taco Bell, and McDonald's. And even Taco Bell and McDonald's are getting close to closing by that time.
Yeah.
So those are like my only options. Even if I had a car, I'd be like, well, I guess I'll just drive home. There's not like I can go anywhere. So.
Like, I know when I was working the overnight shifts before pre-COVID, like, there's a couple times my wife went out to go get something to eat or something. Like, we either go to a gas station or McDonald's or whatever.
Yeah.
We'd drive up Mount Nebo and we'd go up there eating and just sit there and chill until the sun rose.
Oh, yeah.
I
remember when I was a teenager, when I was a dishwasher in a restaurant, and I would get off about the same time as my job now, not like it'd be almost midnight by the time I get off work. And I'd go home, get my wet clothes off because I get so wet from washing all those dishes. So I'd change into some dry clothes, and me and my friend John, we'd still go out and do stuff, and it's just like, because there was that, you actually could do that back then. Now it's like, well, I guess we'll drive around and, twiddle our thumbs. There's not really much to do.
You can always hang out at a Waffle House.
Well, yeah. So we have done that before. That was back when I was a huge coffee drinker, and we'd go there, and because then I could just they'd keep filling up my coffee. So, and it didn't cost that much.
Well, like, I remember going out way pre-COVID, because this is like 2016.
Yeah.
Then me and my wife, where I'm from, would go and drive around, and we drive 30 minutes into the next town, the bigger town over, and do a bunch of shit. And then we go at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning as my check just dropped, go into Waffle House and have a little morning breakfast and BS with the people at Waffle House.
Yeah. When I was in my mid-20s, me and my mom and all her church friends, we did go to Denny's a lot late at night, because sometimes our church, it didn't get out because it was we had an event going on during that time called a revival, and so sometimes we didn't get out until like after midnight. Sometimes get out of church, and so by the time we got out, we were hungry, so it's like we'd go to Denny's and we'd sit there and hang out there for a couple hours. So we did that. It was a lot of fun.
And even if you go to those places that are still open, like Waffle House and Denny's and stuff like that,
yeah,
it doesn't feel the same anymore.
No, it doesn't. There's something about the atmosphere of a post-COVID world. It's just not the same. Hanging out late at night is just not as fun as it used to be. So.
Yeah, you got to be in a bigger city for that to be fun.
Yeah.
Because you used to, like, a town the size of Russellville or from like Paragould and stuff, 20-something thousand people, a place with 20-something thousand people or more, there was always shit going on.
Yeah.
Like the mall at Turtle Beach there in Jonesboro, Arkansas, they had stores that were open 24/7. You'd walk through the mall, you see most of it's all closed and it was half lit. It was kind of a little adventure, and you hang out in so many stores that are open all night.
Yeah.
And now they're definitely not open no more.
We sound like such old men reminiscing about our teenage days. Back when everything used to be like this. But it really is true, though. I mean, yeah.
It's weird because for us, like, you hear people talking about back in their day, which is for them was a long ass time. And you expect things to change, after 3 or 4 decades. But for us, our stuff changed within a decade.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a fast forward movement for sure. So.
It's like, hey,
And I think everybody in our generation is still just kind of mentally adjusting to it. So
it's honestly, it almost feels like the way people were talking about, like the old guys were talking about their days, like at night, at this time of night, there was nothing. You were at home, you were in bed. It's almost like we reverted
yeah,
in most of these towns. Like unless you're in a big city, like 100,000 or more, and those still feel like they keep going. But like these smaller to mid-sized towns, feel like they just stopped and reverted.
yeah. Well, we're about out of time, everybody. So I think we'll wrap things up here.
Yeah.
We appreciate you listening. Like I said, we are on YouTube now. So if you do prefer listening on YouTube, totally understandable. You can check us out on there. So,
Oh, yeah.
well, see you in the next episode.
And Merry Christmas, everyone. Bye.
Yep.